Late evening lecture hall dimly light with only a few students left. One seat at the back, staring blankly at her notes, while Professor John Junko gathered his paper at the podium. The sound of distant thunder rumbles through the window. The air between them is heavy silent. Junko, he notices Wine is still sitting there, unmoving. Class ended 15 minutes ago. Wine, without looking up, voice devoid of emotion. Did be a problem if I did? Jungkook scoffed, crossing his arm. Your attitude never fails to impress. But no, it's not my problem. Just curious if you are waiting for someone or just ignoring common social cues. Wine and dry chuckle escape her lips. Waiting, but not for someone. Jungkook narrows his eye, intrigued despite himself. Cryptic, how poetic. What is with this girl? Wine, finally meeting his gaze, cold and distant. If you want me to go, just say it. No need for small talk, Professor. Jungkook clicked his tongue, leaning against the desk. I don't do small talk. Pauses, studying her. But I do recognize when a student is deliberately avoiding home. Wine jaw clenched slightly, but she kept her expression unreadable. You assume too much. Jungkook shrugged. Maybe, but you show up earlier than everyone and leave later. Either you really love literature or you have nowhere to go. Wine, a ghost of smug, or maybe I just enjoy testing your patience. Jungkook snored, shaking his head. If that's the case, congratulations, you are excelling in that department. Shy, glancing at the clock. Go back, go home, Wine. If you keep sitting there like some tragic novel heroine, I might actually start worrying. Wine, soft, almost mocking. You worry? That's unexpected. Jungkook rolled his eye, grabbing his coat. Don't flatter yourself. I just don't want to deal with the missing student report. Wine standing up slowly, gathering her book. Relax, Professor. I'm not that easy to get rid of. As she walks past him, Jungkook notices something. Faint bruises just below her sleeve. He doesn't comment, but his jaw tightened. He watches as she exits the hall, her back straight, posture indifferent, but he knows better. He has seen eyes like her before, cold, distance, and hiding something deeper beneath. That night, Jungkook sat at his desk, eye lingering on one's attendance records. Always present, always quiet, never absent. He was skipping. Jungkook muttering to himself, what the hell are you hiding, One? The next morning, literature class, the usual chatter dies down as Professor John Jungkook walks in, his sharp gaze sweeping over the student. One, as always, sit at the back, eyes hooded, finger lightly tapping against her notebook. Jungkook pretends not to notice how her usual indifference seems heavier today. Jungkook, dropping his book on the desk, voice sharp. I assume none of you are foolish enough to come unprepared today. Open your book. We are discussing existentialism in literature. A few crowns from the students but they comply. While flip her book open lazily, eye unfocused, Jungkook leans against his desk watching. Jungkook flicking his eye towards her. One, enlighten the class. If existence is inherently meaningless, why do characters still seek purpose? One, without missing a beat, voice monotone, because humans are full who crave meaning even when there is none. Jungkook lip twitched slightly, impressed. A bleak yet accurate perspective. Forces watching her carefully. And what about you? Do you crave meaning or are you one of the rare few who accept nothingness? The class goes silent. A few heads turned to Swan. She remained unfazed, holding Jungkook's gaze with her own. Wine slowly. I think people pretend to crave meaning when all they really want is an escape. Jungkook, eye darkened slightly, intrigued. Escape from what? One voice, even something flickered in his gaze. Reality, pain, themselves. Take your pick. A tense pause. Jungkook held her gaze a moment longer before finally looking away, nodding slightly. Jungkook cleared his throat, addressing the class. Well, if you all thought today's discussion would be light-hearted, blame one. Class and students shuffle out. One takes her time packaging her book and Jungkook, despite himself, lingered by the desk. Jungkook, casual but firm. You look like a held. One dressing bro deadpan. Thanks, Professor. That means a lot coming from you. Jungkook, ignoring her sarcasm, did you sleep at all? And shrugging slingly her back over her shoulder. Does it matter? Jungkook, voice dropping slightly. It does if you're going to sit in my class looking like a ghost and talking about skipping reality. Val smirks slightly, but there is no warmth in it. Don't worry, Professor, I'm not your problem. She turns to leave, but Jungkook voice stop her. Jungkook, no, already, that's what you think. Van pauses for a fraction of a second, just enough for Jungkook to catch it before she walks away without looking back. He watches her disappear down the hallway, jaw clenched. He doesn't know why, but something about her lingers in his mind longer than it should. Late evening, the university campus is nearly empty. The sky painted in hues of fading orange and deepening blue. Jungkook steps out of his office, exhausted. He pulls his coat tighter around himself, ready to leave, when a familiar figure catches his attention near the campus gate. Ryan, standing near the entrance, arm crossed, shoulder tense. The dim glow of street lamp barely illuminates her face, but the Jungkook notices it instantly. Her usually impressive expression seems off. There's a stiffness in the way she stands, like she's pressing for something or someone. That's when he sees him, a man, older, leaning against a car a few feet away. His face is shadow, but Jungkook catches the way his posture screams control, possession, and while she's frozen, not scared but rigid, like she's forcing herself not to react. Jungkook doesn't like it, not a bit. Jungkook, casually walking over, hands in his pocket. Didn't take you for the type to loiter after school while head snapped towards him, her expression shifting quickly. Surprise, then immediate indifference. But Jungkook catches the feeling, fleeting panic before she hid it. Wine, flatly, didn't take you for this type to take care, Professor. Jungkook, ignoring her tone, glancing at the man near the car. Friend of yours? Wine stiffens. The man swiftly, slightly, finally stepping into the light, revealing a face Jungkook doesn't like at all. There is something in his eyes, something cruel, something possessive. Jungkook has seen men like him before. He hates them. Man smirks, looking Jungkook up and down. Professors, huh? Didn't know my daughter was too close with her teacher. Jungkook barely reacts, but internally something clicks. Daughter. His gaze flicks back to Ryan, who is unwaveringly quiet. Her father looks too smug, too comfortable in his presence. Jungkook doesn't like that either. Coolly. I wouldn't say we are close, just making sure my student isn't being harassed after us. Ryan father chuckled, shaking his head. Harassed? Now that's a strong word. I'm just here to take my daughter home. Isn't that right, sweetheart? Ryan doesn't respond. She just clenches her jaw slightly. Yes, walked onto the pavement. Jungkook watches the tension in her shoulder, the way her hands subtly tremble at her sides. It's all he needs to confirm what he already suspects. Jungkook, voice dropped, sharp as ice. Funny, she doesn't look like she wants to go. One father smiled, flattered slightly. That's none of your concern, Professor. Jungkook stepped forward deliberately, placing himself between Wyatt and her father. Actually, it is. If my student is in distress, I have every right to step in. University Boris pauses, tickling his head slightly, and personal principle. Silence. One finally looks up, eyes flickering between two men. Her father's face darkens slightly, but he forces another smile. One father, low, threatening. Stay out of my family matters, Professor John. Jungkook smirks, but his eyes are cold. Noted, not leave before I call campus security. A tense pause, then with a sharp exhale, her father's cough, stepping back towards his car. One's father, mockingly, we'll talk later on. He gets in and drives off, leaving behind eerie silence. One remains still, staring at the spot where the car was, her hand curling into fist. Jungkook, quietly, you should report him. One's cough, voice bitter, and say what? That my father is controlling piece of shit? Does he make my life living hell? No. One cares, Professor. Jungkook, watching her carefully, I do. One falters. Just for a second, her lips part slightly, like she wants to say something, but instead she exhales sharply, shaking her head, while softly but firm. Don't get involved, Professor. Jungkook, equally firm. Too late. A bit of silence. The air between them is thick with something unspoken. Then finally one looks away, gripping the strap of her bag. One doesn't respond. Instead, she turns and walks away, disappearing into the night. Jungkook stands there for a moment, jaw tight, fist clenched. He knows this isn't over, not by a long shot. The following days in class, Jungkook doesn't say anything outright, but he observes, watches, notices. One is still coming early and leaves late. Still sit at the back, expression unreadable. But now Jungkook pays closer attention, more than he should, more than he wanted to admit. The way her sleeves are always pulled down, even when it's warm, the way she flinches barely, but he catches it when someone brushes past her too suddenly, exhaustion in her eyes, the kind that sleep can't fix. He doesn't praise her, not yet, but he starts leaving class later than usual, lingering, waiting just in case. One evening, as the lecture ends, students shuffle out. One remains seated, eyes skimming over her notebook. Jungkook notices the way she taps her finger against the desk, subtle, rhythmic, almost like a nervous habit. Jungkook, casually, if you stare at the piece any harder, it might catch a fire. One doesn't even flinch, she just sighs, shutting the notebook with a soft thud. Wine, Charlie, I'll take my chances. Jungkook, leaning against the desk, arm crossed. You didn't participate enough today. Wine shrugs, didn't feel like it. Jungkook, watching her, that's a burst. A pause, Han's shakes in her seat but doesn't reply. Jungkook exhales, running a hand through his hair before speaking again. Jungkook, tone lighter but calculated. You know, when students stay behind after class is usually because they need something. Help with an assignment, advice, a reason to avoid going home. The last part is said so casually, so smoothly that one barely catches it at first. But then she does. Her fingers stop tapping. One slowly. Are you diagnosing me now, Professor? Jungkook smirks slightly, but his eyes remain serious. Just an observation. Wyan made his gaze expression unreadable. Maybe you should stop observing me so much. Jungkook raised a brow, voice dropping slightly. Maybe you should stop acting like you are fine when you are clearly not. Heavy sigh. Something unspoken lingers between them. For a second, Wyan looks away, lip pressing into a thin light. When she speaks, her voice is quieter than before. Wyan softly, why do you care? Jungkook, without hesitation, because I see what you are trying to hide. Wyan breath hitches just slightly. It's quick, almost imperceptible, but Jungkook catches it. Wyan forcing a smirk, but it doesn't reach her eye. Carefully, Professor. Someone might think you have a soft spot for me. Jungkook chuckles, but his gaze are sharp. I don't do soft spot pauses, but I don't ignore things either. A long silence, then finally one stands slinging her bag over her shoulder. One muttering, "You should know things make life easier." Jungkook watches as she walks towards the door, voice quieter but firm. For who? One pauses just for a moment, but she doesn't answer. She just walks out, disappearing down the hall. Jungkook shy, rubbing his temples. He knows he's pushing a boundary. But he also knows one thing for certain. He's not ignoring this anymore. A few nights later, too late for any student to be on campus, the air is crisp, the distant hum of traffic, the only sound cutting through a silence. Jungkook is leaving after grading paper, his coat wrapped over his arm, when he sees a familiar figure sitting on stone bench near the library. One, she's curled up slightly, hoodie pulled over her head, arm wrapped around her knees. She's not crying. Jungkook doesn't think she is the type to cry where anyone can see, but she looks small, exhausted, hollow in a way that unsettles him more than he willing to admit. Jungkook, casually stepping closer, didn't peg you as the type to admire architecture this late at night. One doesn't react at first, then slowly she tilts her head up, eyed shadowed under the dim glow of street lamp. One flatly didn't peg you as the type to stop. You're a student professor. Jungkook smiled, but there is no humor in his eye. Lucky coincidence, or maybe just bad luck on your part. A pause. One exhaled slowly, leaning back against the cold stone bench. One quietly. Go, Professor. Jungkook, ignoring us, stepping closer. Funny, I was about to say the same to you. Pauses voice lower, but I'm guessing that's not an option. Jungkook, softly but firm. What happened? Warren smirks slightly, but it's better. Nothing I can't handle. Jungkook sharp. That's not an answer. Warren turns to him, eyes cold, but there's something fragile beneath it. Why do you care? Jungkook, holding her gaze, voice even, because I know what it looks like when someone has nowhere to go. Silence, heavy, the word linger between them, unspoken things, filling the space. One fingers twitch slightly, but she doesn't speak. She just exhales, leaning her back, staring at the sky, like it holds the answer she'll never find. One quietly, it's funny, people always say it's get better. Voice hollow, but they never say when. Jungkook cleanses his jaw. He shouldn't be here, shouldn't be getting involved. But looking at her, seeing that expression, the kind that people only wear when they have been forced to carry too much for too long, he knows he already passed the point of walking away. Jungkook's voice quieter but certain. You are right. They don't pauses. But it doesn't mean you have to go through it alone. One lets out a soft scoff, shaking her head, but she doesn't argue, doesn't say anything for a long time. Then finally, so softly it's almost lost to the wind, she speaks, one, barely above a whisper. I don't know how to do anything else. Jungkook exhaled sharply. He doesn't reach for her, doesn't touch her, doesn't force anything. Instead, he just sits down beside her, leaving enough space to breathe, but not enough to ignore his presence. Jungkook, steady. Then maybe it's time. Someone showed you how. They sit in silence, the night stretches on, the air cold, but neither of them move. And for the first time, War doesn't feel completely alone. The next morning, Jungkook didn't push Warren to say more last night. But something shifted. He saw it in her eye. He never been the type to overstep, but he knows. No, she's barely keeping herself together, and he can't ignore it anymore. So today, make a choice. After class, as students shuffle out, Maya remains seated. She's staring at notebook, but Jungkook knows she's not really saying the words. Jungkook, casually as he leans against his desk, stared, one finger freeze, Meta against the desk. Slowly, she lifted her gaze, expression unreadable. What? Flatly, why? Jungkook raised a brow. Because I mean half grading papers.
Why, dryly, since when do professors make a student do their work? Jungkook smirked slightly since I decided you owe me all the times you have ignored my lectures. Wine rolled her eyes but doesn't argue. That alone tells Jungkook everything he needs to know. One eyebrow raised, taking the cup hesitantly. You're not gonna report me for staying out late, are you? Jungkook leaning back, voice even. I'm not your guardian. One pause, but I'm also not blind. One still figure tightening around the cup. She doesn't speak. Jungkook watches her, his gaze steady but unreadable. Jungkook quietly, you don't have to talk, you don't have to explain, but you need to a safe place to breathe. A long pause, Vine stared down at her coffee, as if searching for answer in the dark liquid. Her voice, when she finally speaks, is barely above whisper. Vine, softly, what if I don't know how? Jungkook firm but gentle. My office stays open late. If you even need somewhere to sit, to think, to not be at home, you come here. No question, no expectation. Anne stared at the key, then at him, her throat tightened. Something raw glowing at her chest. No one has ever offered her that. Not without wanting something in return. But Jungkook's eyes remained steady, patient, not pushing, just waiting. She doesn't say thank you, but she takes the key, and for Jungkook, that's enough.